All right, so I'm going to insert the picture of the bridge that I'm working on as I got it, because we cut it up. A friend gave it to me, and he and his father helped cut it up. So this is what it looks like right now. So what I did is I cut it down the middle, narrowed it over, shifted it off, so that instead of this much of a gap in between rungs, we've got this much of a gap. So every other rung is from every other side. So you can see this is the old original weld. That's a loose end. That's the original weld. This is the loose end. And then when I get down here, you can see this is shifted off on the side here. So what I ended up doing is the same thing that I did over on this side here. I cut the upper piece of the I-beam. Well, I can show you probably pretty good from in here. So here, I cut this piece off from the top, and then went all the way down the line here, and then this is that other beam, so it kind of slides into a socket. As you can see, yeah, that's not fantastic. What can I say? Not a real pro at ironwork, but once I throw a bunch of bolts in there and weld it up, that'll be fine. And then I'll probably throw some random cross beams in, because I've got other pieces of this. This was a camper trailer that was junked, so they pulled it apart. Like I said, my friends gave me the frame for this, so I can build that guy a new bridge. So Terrible Ted's bridge. We'll hopefully get this together in the next couple of weeks. I was cooking the other day, so I couldn't quite cooking as in boiling to death. So you see that like a little bend in there, that was originally in the trailer. So I'll probably try and jack that out a little bit, but there's probably not a whole heck of a lot. Once I get decking boards on it, you won't really see that stuff. And then what my plan is, once I start welding up these other pieces, is to do something like that to help brace it. But I got to get it squared up first and all sorts of stuff like that. But yeah, that's where it is right now. Hopefully it gets a little farther as we move along. All right, so I just took all the straps off and all the extra junk off. I'm gonna mark these connection points where I want these things butted up so I don't accidentally get things flip-flopped or what have you, because I'm kind of cutting these custom to where they're supposed to be. Don't know what I'm gonna do about that. I don't think I can bend that back. So these two sides are not attached right now, so it's not like I can put a jack on that side and push against this. All that's gonna do is just spread these back apart, because this is just, one of these sides is just sitting there. Yeah. That side's not actually attached to anything. So like I could tip this up on end and then try and run the tractor on it for weight. That might bend it back. So I might try that first. We'll see how that goes. Of course, it leaves you a blank spot here that I've already taken into consideration because I have extra pieces, which I just took off from there. And that's what this pile here is. So those are beams down there, and then these are the cross members. As you can see, most of that stuff's bent up pretty bad because that trailer was backed into a tree and some other stuff. So that's what I'm working with. So what my plan is, once I get the Yorkie moved and some other things moved, is I'm gonna bring the bridge pieces in here, set them down level, see if I can get those gaps a little tighter with Sawzall or a cutting wheel or whatever. Once I get the gaps a little tighter, then I will weld one side up to it, and then I'll flip it over, weld the other side, and then I'll flip it back, and then I'll attach the other rails to it. So by flipping it over, what I mean is I'm only going to flip one side at a time. So look, I will do one rail of this bridge, flip it, and then weld the other side. Because you can see these gaps right here. I want these gaps as close as possible. So when I pull these up tight, you can see that there's a pretty good sized gap there. When I pull these up tight, there's going to be a little overlap, obviously. But I want the overlaps to be touching. So when I weld, I'll be able to weld straight across these things and that'll give me some strength here. I mean, that's not the only thing that's going to hold it together. The other thing that's going to hold it together is these areas here. So this tab comes from this end of the bridge. So this is solid all the way through here. I basically cut this top tab completely off, and then I just slide it in, and then I weld these guys together. And then that will be what makes my attachment here. I will probably also drill a hole here and a hole here and put 2 large bolts in, just in case for some reason over time my welds give way. I'll be able to catch it because the bolts will be there to save me. So yeah, there's that. Alrighty. So I took the excavator, brought it up to here, used my bucket over on the other side to lift myself up. Got my tracks, so I was precariously balancing on that, using that as the pivot points between these two. And while not perfect, it's pretty darn close, and I'm gonna call that a day. I think that's gonna be fine. I mean, it's still not dead straight, but it's definitely a lot better than having that huge bend in it. So I'm gonna go with that. I don't want to tweak this around too much because I think that's just gonna serve to further weaken it. But I think that's fine for what I'm gonna do with it. All right. I don't think there's anything I could possibly do on this planet that would be more sketch-tastic than this. As high as that lifts. Close enough. Don't have to move fast. Just gotta move. Yeah. Alright, digging into the ground there. So I mean, I gotta take this end down a little bit. It's working. I just gotta go slow. Can't get greedy. I'm going to do next, so we got these ball bearing rollers. Shove them underneath the end. See if we can get this to roll. Let's see. Got me in. Good idea, Ted. Ted's moving out of the way. The Yorkie does not look impressed. Alright. So this is about as far as I want to go because this end piece has got to go on here. So, gotta be careful. So I'm going to block this up. It's got to come off the floor because these things are in the way. I probably should just cut those off, but yeah, I don't know. I don't need to weaken it any more than it already is. Alrighty, so that would at least leave me enough room to get the other one in here, and then I'll lay them down. Alrighty, so basically I got this tacked up here, that tacked up there, this kind of tacked up here. I'm going to put a little bit more down there at the bottom. I got that tacked here. I obviously got to fill in that gap. So I got a little bit of work left to do there before this is secure enough to tip this up. And then I'll weld the seam down the other side. And that will be one that'll be joined. So I haven't figured out whether or not, I'm probably just gonna plate this. Because I've got these cutoffs. And I think that's probably what I'm gonna do, because this is the bottom of the bridge here. So I may just stick that like that and then just weld that right in place, and that'll double that up, and then I won't have to worry about that gap there, and it'll strengthen up, and I won't have to worry about it being in the way of decking boards. That's why I want to make sure this side up here was just that I'm going to do cleaner and then probably grind it off. But I don't want anything, whoops, sorry about that. I don't want anything sticking up above like this. I don't care. This is on the bottom side, so I'll probably just leave that there because it's not worth cutting it off. But everything else needs to be smooth on the top because the decking boards are going to go this way, obviously. And I've still got that one there to mess with, but how do you eat an elephant, kids? One bite at a time.